Today we're gonna talk about this guy, George Washington, the first president of the United States of America. Today we're outside of Mount Vernon, his estate that he loved coming to. He loved this place. And this guy completely represents our independence against the British. He led the Revolutionary War, and I admire that. You know, it took great courage to fight against the British and be a rebel during that time and fight for their independence and liberty and justice for all, and no taxation without representation. So George Washington was pivotal for our freedom and Declaration of Independence against the British. And it's fascinating, you know, he led the Revolutionary War and led us to our freedom. But some things a lot of people don't know is that he was in the Virginia militia at first and really wanted to join the British Army in his youth. But things would have been completely different if that had actually came to happen. They did not accept him in the British military. Thank God, because I probably wouldn't have the same life today if George Washington went into the British military. So I'm just really glad that he was a rebel and he stood up for his independence against the British. So let's take a look at the life inside the man of who once was, who lived and led this beautiful country into our independence and was the very first president of the United States of America. Let's step inside Mount Vernon Mansion. The first room we enter into is what is known as the New Room. Painted in this beautiful turquoise blue, indicating high status. The room is adorned with neoclassical, handcrafted ornamental panels. The dining room is one of the oldest rooms of the house, which was first built in 1735 and later renovated with a striking green paint in 1785. As you can see, there are white and blue porcelain on the table, which was commonly used during the 1700s. Washington became close friends with Marquis de Lafayette, and Lafayette would become one of Washington's key generals in the fight against the British. Lafayette gave Washington the only key to Bastille prison in France. This key still hangs in the hallways of Mount Vernon, encased in a glass box. Follow me as we head upstairs. This dark room is known as the Yellow Room, hauntings of the ghost of Martha Washington's niece who died from a seizure episode. Her ghost is said to have been seen from the window looking out onto the grounds. Now we are in George and Martha Washington's bedchambers. In 1799, George Washington came down with a sore throat. He received the best medical care of the time. They used a practice called bloodletting. They removed about 40% of George Washington's blood, which led to his death on December 14th, 1799, at the age of 67. Welcome to George Washington's study. No one was allowed to enter this room without an invitation. This is where George Washington bathed, dressed in the morning. It was a closet where he kept all of his clothes. Now we make our way to the kitchen, the hottest room of the house. Placing the kitchen in a separate building kept the noise, heat, and potential threat of fire away from the mansion. Okay, we're standing outside of George Washington's house. This is the view that he would have every morning when he would wake up and he would walk his terrace. But take a look, this is a beautiful Potomac River. It's huge, it's so wide, this river. And then right across the land you see over there is Maryland, the state of Maryland. So it's fascinating. We're on Virginia soil right here, and then that's Maryland across the way. So that's how easy state lines are, right in the across the river. So it's very cool to see the same view that Washington had every single day after he retired, as his second term ended and he retired at his estate. So now we're on the back side of Washington's house, George Washington's house, and as you can see, it is lined with scaffolding. They are in the process of restoration. They're restoring what it looked like, the wood, the support beams, and all of that to support the house so that way it doesn't fall or get demolished in any way, or fixing all the cracks and doing the repaint. As you can see, there's different layers of the paint. There's the white layers, and on the very top, the original paint, and then on the bottom you can see the older but newer paint, the beige color. They're taking it all off and painting it again and adding new support, new wood, to keep this house in tip-top shape. They restore the paint every 20 years or so. So it's been 20 years since they last painted the house, and so now they're doing the back side of the house currently. Let's check out the grounds of Mount Vernon. Look at this old wagon. In the 1700s, they would use a wagon and a horse, and they would travel on unkept dirt roads. It was a challenge to travel during this time. You needed a lot of grit to do this, or have servants to help you travel. This carriage looks slightly more comfortable. Washington's tomb. It was common for families to bury their loved ones on their estate grounds during this time. This is George Washington's final resting place alongside his wife, Martha Washington. Every day there is a wreath that is placed in remembrance of him and his legacy. Rest in peace, George. Here we are standing at the Slave Memorial site at Mount Vernon. George Washington was really reluctant to own slaves. George Washington wrote in his will that he would free his slaves after his death. Let's take a moment of silence in remembrance of the individuals who worked on the grounds of Mount Vernon. So this is one of the first memorials to memorialize slavery here on the Mount Vernon estate. And here we think about all of the slaves that are buried on the site. grounds have been preserved through the decades because of the dedication that the women of Mount Vernon had. They banded together to save this beautiful historic monument in the 1800s. These ladies saw the importance of preserving this piece of American history. Thank you for joining me on this tour of Mount Vernon. See you in the Metaverse.